What if the truth of life isn't light but darkness? What if suffering isn't something to escape, but something to understand? Two great minds stared into the same void and saw completely different answers. This is the story of Nietzsche vs. Schopenhauer, a battle of two pessimists. One said, "Give up," the other said, "Rise up," but both changed how we see existence itself. Schopenhauer looked at life and didn't flinch. He said, "Everything you chase, money, love, success, is a trap, because behind it all is something you can't see, a force, blind, restless, endless," he called it the will. You don't control it. It controls you. It pushes you to want more, even when you already have enough. It's why happiness never lasts, why desire always leads to suffering. So what's the answer? Schopenhauer said, stop chasing, pull back, silence the wanting, lose the ego. That's the only peace you'll ever know. He found comfort in music, art, meditation, things that lifted us out of the chaos even for a moment. But in the end, he believed life is a mistake, a cycle of pain, and only by giving up the fight do we find peace. Now Nietzsche, he starts in the same place. Yes, life is suffering, but his answer, good. Suffering to him was not a prison. It was fuel. Nietzsche saw people run from pain, hide behind religion, comfort, fake happiness, and he said, no more, face the chaos, become something stronger. He called it the will to power, not about controlling others, but about rising above your own weakness. He introduced the Bermensch, the overman, someone who doesn't run from life but says yes to all of it, even the pain, even death. Nietzsche's question was this: if you had to live your life over and over forever, would you still say yes? If not, you're not living right. He wasn't here to comfort you, he was here to wake you up. Schopenhauer said, life hurts, so let go. Nietzsche said, life hurts, so get stronger. Same problem, different paths, same darkness, different flames. One path is peace through surrender, the other is power through struggle. But what if they're not enemies? What if Schopenhauer is the silence before the storm and Nietzsche is the storm itself, letting go and then rising again? Both are part of the same journey. Schopenhauer wasn't just a Western philosopher. He was one of the first to study Eastern thought deeply. He read the Upanishads, studied Buddhism. He saw life as Maya illusion, and he believed in freeing the self through stillness. Nietzsche, too, found power in myth, Dionysus, Greek tragedy. He wasn't a dry thinker. He was a mystic in disguise. They weren't just writing ideas, they were writing medicine for the soul. But over time, people forgot, turned their words into classroom lectures, and missed the real meaning. This was a path, a way of seeing, a way of living. Let's flip the script. What if the pessimist isn't broken? What if he's the only one really awake? In a world obsessed with positivity, with fake smiles and forced happiness, these two men looked straight into the void and told the truth. Yes, life is hard. Yes, desire burns. Yes, suffering is real. But instead of running, they watched, they learned, they created a new kind of wisdom, a sacred kind, the kind you earn by not looking away. So now it's your turn. You've seen both visions, Schopenhauer's path, withdraw, let go, find peace, Nietzsche's path, confront, overcome, become. Which one feels true to you? Or is there a third path, one that begins in silence and ends in fire? This isn't just their battle, it's yours, it's mine, it's the human experience, and in the end your life is the answer you give. Have you ever wondered, what if life is not about escaping pain but facing it head on? What if suffering is not a curse but a doorway? Two of the greatest minds in history, Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, both stared into life's darkest corners. They both believed life was full of pain, but they offered completely different answers to one question: what do we do with all this suffering? This is not just a debate, it's a battle, a clash of two worldviews. One says, let go. The other says, rise up, let's go deeper. To understand these two thinkers, we need to go back to 19th century Europe. God was fading. Science was rising. People were working more and believing less. The world was speeding up but losing meaning. And in this strange time, two voices emerged. One was quiet, bitter, full of sorrow. That was Schopenhauer. The other, loud, fiery, defiant, Nietzsche. This wasn't just a difference in tone. It was a difference in truth. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that life was driven by something called the will, not free will, but a blind, powerful force that pushes everything to want more, crave more, suffer more. To him, life was like a hamster wheel. We chase happiness, but it never lasts. Desire always returns. So what's the answer? Schopenhauer said, let go, stop wanting, pull away from the noise of life, look for peace in art, music, and stillness. He was inspired by Buddhism and Hinduism. He believed the only true freedom was in silence. But then came Nietzsche, and he said, no, don't run from suffering, don't deny it, face it, use it, transform it. Nietzsche believed in something else, the will to power, not to dominate others, but to overcome yourself. To grow, to create. To become more than what life throws at you. Where Schopenhauer saw a world to escape, Nietzsche saw a mountain to climb. His message was clear, love your fate, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's how heroes are born. Here's the twist, even though they disagreed on almost everything, they both believed in the power of art. Schopenhauer saw art as a break from suffering, a moment of peace, especially music. It helped him forget the will. Nietzsche agreed at first, but later he saw art as a tool to transform pain to shape chaos into beauty. For Nietzsche, tragedy wasn't escape. It was celebration. Two men, same love for beauty, different reasons why. Now here's the strange part. Nietzsche is called a pessimist. But was he really? Sure, he said, life is hard. Sure, he said, God is dead. But he also said, he who has a why can bear almost any how. He believed that if we choose to embrace our suffering, we can become something greater, not victims, but creators, not broken, but reborn. So now we return to you, two voices, two paths. Schopenhauer says, step back, let go. There is peace in silence. Nietzsche says, step forward, embrace the fire. There is strength in the struggle. They both looked at the same pain and found different answers. So the real question isn't who was right, it's which one speaks to you, which one helps you face your life. In the end, this isn't their battle anymore, it's yours. In the battle of the pessimists, who really won? Or maybe they both did. Here's the twist, you're not just watching these two argue. You've heard both of them, inside your own head. One voice says, why even try? The world doesn't care, let go. The other says, don't quit, push harder, prove them wrong. And maybe both are right. Maybe they're not philosophers, maybe they're mirrors. Schopenhauer is your quiet sadness. Nietzsche is your raging fire. You've felt both, you've lived both. This isn't theory, this is real life. And the battlefield is you. Society doesn't want you to think like this. It wants obedience, smiles, success, repeat. But these two, they were rebels. Schopenhauer walked alone. He didn't chase fame, he chased truth. Nietzsche, they called him crazy, ignored him, mocked him, until he was dead. Then, they built statues. That's how it works. Truth-tellers are always too early, too raw, too dangerous. And yet their ideas survive. Because deep down people know this world is not enough. Something deeper calls. Here's a truth no one talks about. Both men broke. Schopenhauer isolated himself. He avoided relationships, feared connection, feared people. Nietzsche, he went mad, literally, collapsed in the street, died in silence. But maybe they saw too much. Maybe their minds touched truths that were too big, too heavy. Maybe awakening isn't pretty. Maybe the ones who see the most carry the most pain, but they also leave behind light, dark, painful light, but still, light. Schopenhauer taught a few. Nietzsche inspired generations. Artists, writers, revolutionaries, even rebels today still quote him. So did Nietzsche win? Not really, because Schopenhauer planted the seed. Without him, there's no Nietzsche. They were opposites but also father and son, not in blood. In thought. In spirit. It's not about who was right, it's about how their ideas live on inside us. Let's go deeper. What if you don't have to choose? What if life is not either or but both or and? What if you learn to let go like Schopenhauer, and then rise like Nietzsche? What if your pain is real, but also your power? This is the hidden third way to feel everything, to accept the darkness, but also to create something from it, not to run, not to fight, but to transform. That's the real battle, not against life, not against suffering, but against your own fear of it. Where did all this darkness come from? Let's look at their lives. Schopenhauer grew up in a wealthy but cold home. His father was strict, his mother distant. He believed early on that life was never going to be kind. He never married, lived alone, and grew more bitter as the years passed. Nietzsche. He lost his father when he was 5, spent his youth surrounded by grief, religion, and silence. Later, he faced chronic illness, loneliness, and eventually madness. But here's the key. Schopenhauer turned inward. Nietzsche turned outward. Same pain, different direction.